Gold FM, Speak Your Mind. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Edwin Nand. Now, today we'll be talking to some women candidates who will be contesting the September elections. Exciting times around the country, and exciting as well for women who've stepped forward to put their name into, join political parties to say that, yes, they would like to contest the national elections and stand toe-to-toe with the rest of the political candidates around the country. Some veteran politicians, some new entrants into the political scene. Today we'll be talking to at least 4 women candidates who've recently gone through a workshop to empower them, to teach them some of the tricks and to show them what they need to be doing in order to be recognized come polling day. In studio with us right now we have Mrs. Lavanya Padarat, a veteran politician and a long-time member of the Fiji Labour Party, as well as Laisani Nganganilawa from the Social Democratic Liberal Party, who will be talking to us about their experiences, their expectations, and what are some of the things they are doing on the ground in preparations for the election. But let's start off, Mrs. Padarat, with yourself. You've been a part of Fijian politics for a number of years, decades to say the least. How do you see the landscape changing in terms of recognizing female political candidates?
Thank you. May I just first of all send out greetings to all the women of Fiji, and particularly to the members of the Fiji Labour Party who are working hard out there in the field. I just think that the women of today are facing an even bigger challenge than we have. As you know, I've stood in the past 3 elections, but this election is totally new because of the new system that we have adopted, whereby I think it is even harder for the women, something that politicians, women politicians like me have always stood for in the past, in wanting more women to come on board, to enter politics. And it's harder now with the new system. It's become a bigger challenge for the women. But we continue this struggle in wanting to have more women, and it is very, very exciting to see that the women have, despite the hardship we were facing with the new system, and not even being included, women in the constitution, like, giving support to women by introducing some kind of quota system or temporary special measures under the constitution. Nothing at all. The women have still come forward, taken the challenge to stand for the election, and take my hat off for all the political parties, because I think that is one of our common bond, the parties, in wanting more women, because as we all know, women are good at managing their own homes. It starts in the home, in the families, and so now women are saying, we can take this skills and quality we have in working as partners with our men in Parliament, and the result would be even better and greater if that was to be allowed, more women in Parliament.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to come back to some of the points you raised. Turning to you, Laisani, I understand this will be the first time you're actually contesting the election, a youth candidate as well as a female candidate for Sodelpa. What has been the challenge for you stepping to the forefront and going out into the community as a female candidate?
Thank you, Edwin. Bulavinaka to all the listeners out there, Bulavinaka to all the young people out there, and a big Bulavinaka as well to all the supporters of Sodelpa. So far, joining politics and participating now in these elections has been a thrilling ride for me as a young person. And as the youngest candidate so far in Sodelpa, it's definitely been thrilling. It's been exciting. And there's also challenges that we faced along the way as well. One of the challenges that I have faced particularly is the creating awareness amongst the voter population out there, particularly with the youths and with the women as well, on the benefits of voting in this election and why they should vote. The other challenge that we have faced as well, and that I have also seen, is the challenge with regards to reaching out to the community. We have there's a diverse. We have various islands around Fiji that we need to get to, and the environment that we have, the decree that we have. There's been delays in getting the specific requirements of what we can and how we can proceed in as far as elections is concerned. And that has posed a challenge for us because it has made us, it has kind of constrained a lot of the work that we do when we actually try to reach out into the community. But we're doing our best, and we're doing our best with what we have available to us. And we're trying our best to reach out to the rest of the communities and just creating that awareness about the elections and awareness about SODALPA and what we stand for.
Mrs. Podarut, one of the initial points you made was that the new system makes it harder for women come September. What exactly makes it harder for women under this new system?
The system in itself that I'm referring to is the one national constituency. It's like previously when we had our own areas, it was a lot easier for a woman to come on, and I suppose you can say for everybody else, but I think it's become a bigger challenge for women. It seems to discourage, if I may say, women when the competition has become greater now, because it's with this open system, it's every man and woman for himself, herself. It's become a bigger challenge, particularly for people who are new into the area of politics. That's one. And just in terms of what I referred to earlier, where when I say every man, every woman for himself, the constitution that we were hoping would allow for some support, to show support for women in encouraging more women to come on board. They could have introduced, like the quota system I was referring to, or the temporary special measures, till we have caught up on the numbers in the House. That has not happened, and that's one of the challenges that the women face.
All right. On that note, sorry, continue.
And if I may just add, there are many women also, that includes my party, who are out there, who are sole breadwinners, yet they have the qualification and the will to want to change. But they are delaying even announcing coming on board, or even wanting to come on board, because of financial situation, the fact that they are single mothers. And there are some real good women out there, I know, that just making some provisions, I think, allowing this qualified women to come on board. That is what I'm referring to. That's not being possible.
All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back talking about women in politics. Gold FM Speak Your Mind. We're talking about women in politics, the challenges and opportunities. And in studio with us, we have Lavanya Podarut from the Fiji Labour Party and Laisani Nganganilawa from SODALPA. Before the break, we were talking about some of the issues on the ground that we see. Now, I would like to go into women's issues. I would like each of you to tell me, in your personal opinion, what are some of the women's issues that need to be brought to the forefront when contesting the elections or going into the elections. Let's begin with you, Laisani.
First of all, I'd say that one of the key things, or the challenges, and one of the issues that we can, that we face right now, is the limited representation of women in politics. I think that's something that's a good stepping stone for us to address right now. That's I'm glad that so far we have had a lot of women candidates come up. I see that the other parties have also fielded a lot of women candidates. I think that still remains a challenge. It still remains an issue amongst women in general. And I am thankful that for some of the political parties, for SODALPA as well, they've put in place measures to encourage women to jump on board and participate more in politics.
Mrs. Padarat? Well, the question was women's issues that need to be addressed leading up to the elections or after the elections when a new government comes in.
Thank you. I think one of the best things that arose from the workshop we've just had, bringing all women candidates together, was the talk on having a women's caucus set up by women parliamentarians once, all the women who get in. And for that, it'll be a lot easier for women to address issues. For example, we've had this UN instrument, CEDAW, Convention on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women. It's been here. Its implementation can be better, could be better. And when we look at all the areas that it covers under the articles, you're dealing with health, with education, with the environment under this, how they affect women. I think there's more work women need to address, and we can only do that effectively with the voices of women being heard together. So this is where the Women's Caucus would be a channel where we work together in addressing these issues, getting support, across party line, because these are women's issues. Another area too that concerns us a lot, if I may say here, the coup culture. I think we women deal more with the truth. We seek the truth. We want justice. As mothers, for concern for our families and society, we are tired of this coup culture. And we just think that, this is an area that we want to see stopped. By having more women in parliament, we would have a stronger voice. Another area in that way is the militarization in schools as mothers. We feel strongly this need to stop because, in the olden days you had scouts, people may say this is old-fashioned, but many of us were raised through that, the scouts, the Girl Guides, the Rangers. These are kind of being sidelined, and there's too much of this militarization starting early in the schools.
What do you mean by militarization?
I call that cadet training in the schools. It's too early and too much of it.
Shouldn't that be a matter of choice? I don't think anyone is being forced into this. All these schools have a choice whether they want to have cadet training or not. I don't think it's to call it militarization would be a bit extreme. It's not. There's no mandatory enrollment into the military. You're not required to join the military. These cadet trainings, as I understand it, instills discipline.
Discipline can be taught in other areas. I know what you're saying about, it's the choices, but, more and more in the last 8 years, it's being like almost encouraged because they see the way the government is run. So more and more of these children, that exposure is making them so. We're just concerned as mothers, you're exposing them too early to the advantage, as you said, the discipline. But on the other hand, to guns and to weapons, and that's some of the concern that we feel. Rather than, and sidelining what taught them skills, different skills, life skills. And it also brought about discipline, I must say.
Well, I see where you're coming from, Mrs. Padarat. Let's move on to some of the discussions that were had during this workshop that you mentioned last week. Working across party lines, that has always been a gripe in Fiji politics. It's been tried and it's failed numerous times. Do you ladies believe that if there were more women in parliament, it would be easier to work across party lines and to talk more about the issues than have a lot of political bickering in parliament? What are your thoughts on that, Laisani?
Well, for us women, it's always very much easier to talk and get to the table and talk about issues a lot more faster than generally. Um, we talked about a number of issues. We definitely agreed that yes, if we are successful, we do get into parliament, that there'd still be that camaraderie and the comradeship amongst us, because we are all fighting on the same issues, and we are all fighting and trying to raise a voice for the women in parliament. So we talked about a number of things, and there was agreement on certain areas, such as, as in CEDAW, Mrs. Padarath has mentioned that already. There are some articles under CEDAW that we all can platform together with. And I really don't see it as an issue of bickering amongst parties, that when we get in there that will happen. No, definitely not, because we're all fighting for the same cause, and that is to better the livelihoods and the status of women in our society.
All right, with that, we'll take another quick break. We'll be back for more discussions. Mrs. Badarat, I understand I still have questions for you, so we'll take that after the break. Gold FM, Speak Your Mind. We're talking about women in politics, opportunities and challenges. In the studio with us is Lavanya Padarat from the Fiji Labour Party and Laisani Nganganilawa from Sudelpa. Mrs. Padarat, let's go back to this workshop that was held. What are some of the avenues or strategies that women candidates can use to be recognized when campaigning, when going out to reach out to the voters, and to actually be remembered come polling day? What are some of the strategies that we should be using now?
First of all, I think women candidates need to be more assertive, speak out, just be strong. I think this is one of the things we learned very clearly from our two experienced former parliamentarians, Papua New Guinea and Australia. Them sharing their issues. We need to be just become more proactive and believe in the issues, and also knowing the issues that we are raising, we want to raise. That's one. I just want to go back to that the women's caucus issues. What would be interesting for us to right now for Fiji is to look at a model. We want to be able to create a model that can probably be the beginning of women working together, more and more women working together across party lines on the issues. And I just want to also raise a few examples there that the common issues that touch, common to women, of course. We've mentioned the articles under the CEDAW. For example, health. We were also looking at today, we have this problem of the high rate of teenage pregnancy. Therefore, we are looking at family planning, under health in this article. This is what a woman doesn't have to be just Labour and Sudelpa who's interested in this. These are common to all of us. Now with the NCD, the non-communal rights in NCD today, those are the issues that affects the family. So naturally it affects the women first, looking after their family, the husband, the children getting sick. So these are the realities in life that binds us together as women. Mm-hmm. That is one example. The same when we talk about education. The common issues. Environment is another one. We want to be able to leave behind a safe environment for our generations, young generations to come, for our children. We want a safe environment. These are some of the things that we believe, can really bring women together as common issues.
Mm-hmm. Laisani, as a young candidate, a woman of a new generation, do you fear that when you go out to campaign, you will be met with the attitude or with the culture that's remained in Fiji's past, that women belong in the kitchen and that women don't have a place in politics. Are we still the same Fiji?
Well, so far on my campaigns, I'd say no. I haven't experienced any of my campaign tricks. I haven't experienced any of that reception from the public and who we are campaigning with. That is the general outlook that is still there nowadays. So no, I would say no. I'd say a lot more people out there, particularly men, are more receptive. They are starting to recognize and they appreciate that there is somebody as young as me. I come from the corporate sector, as young as me, qualified and experienced, getting out there and trying to help rebuild our nation. So I definitely say that no, that's not the current thinking that's going on right now.
We have seen a surge, increase in women candidates coming forward to contest the elections. But I think it can still get better. There can be more women. What do we need to do?
I definitely feel, like I said earlier on, it can get better. We still need more women to step up to the forefront and be representatives of women in their societies, in their communities. There are a lot of things that I know from my perspective right now, in as far as the political parties are concerned, and if you're joining a political party, that can be done. One is encouraging women and mentoring the first-time candidates like myself. I have been fortunate to have an older and experienced politician in SADELPA that has taken me under his wing to mentor me specifically. There's also, we can also ensure that that there is visibility for women in politics, and I'm thankful, I'm grateful that the media, that FBC has given us this opportunity to come on board and to share our views on women's issues and why we are where we are now today. So that's been an encouraging factor. Women need to have a lot more visibility in public right now, especially as we gear up into campaign mode. And the media is one of the great ways to do that. And I'm thankful that that avenue has been provided for us.
Mm-hmm. Mrs. Padarat, how do we get women into politics and into parliament? Two questions. Into politics and into parliament.
Well, for political parties, I think it's important it can begin in political parties supporting women, giving them safe seats for one thing, so that to ensure, that's what I meant earlier. It was easy to do that when they had their own constituencies. Now, with this one constituency and this openness, we're just going to have the same are being considered, but it's more difficult in the women, placing them so that they get more votes, and just really supporting them by we've taken our women first time on campaigns, campaign trails, just for them to be able to gather up the courage to, do their own, and that's what they're very ably doing now. It's just like teaching on the spot, taking them out, and just really encouraging. The main thing that we always say, know your issues, what the party stands for, so that you're ready for questions, and never make any promises. We don't promise anything. Just tips like that are shared with them, and I think if they really know their issues, and just being vocal about it, and that's what I meant when I said earlier, women I think are very strong in fighting for truth. So when we know the truth about the issues we believe in, we can become bold and vocal.
All right, with that, we will take another break. After the break, we'll be joined by the National Federation Party's Faye Volatambu, who will also be talking about women's issues. We'll be right back. Gold FM Speak Your Mind with Edwin Nand. In studio, we are now also joined by a Faye Volatamu of the National Federation Party and Mrs. Padarat from the Fiji Labour Party is still with us. Faye, we'll quickly get you into the discussions. We've been talking about the challenges and opportunities for women in politics. For you as a female candidate, what do you see as the biggest obstacle for women come September 17th?
For women, the biggest obstacle that they have is the fact that the mindset of people have to change. We in Fiji are a very patriarchal society, and everything we do is focused on that, the culture that we have. So for a woman to be standing in parliament, she has to have the support of her family, her vanua, her friends, and all her network. So that in itself is a big challenge. She has to balance all this out before she finally makes that stand to put her name forward to be one of the candidates. So right now, that's one of the biggest challenges that I see facing women.
Mrs. Padarat, let's take that into context, the culture that we were talking about earlier, and your experiences in over the decades contesting the elections. Can you share your personal experiences when it comes to the Fiji supposedly being a patriarchal society and the culture that's remained? What are some of the personal stories you can share with the female candidates and voters as well?
When I first started out, I have shared this with our new candidate nominees. When I first started out, I even shared this in the workshop. I'm a naturally shy person, but this politics has made me tough over the years. And I think that's something you learn over time. So when I first started out, I was very timid. I did not speak really like I do now because I was a shy person. And I've learned that I think that's why I keep saying, people, as long as you know your topic, you need to be, for women, you need to be bold and to be vocal. So now, for example, when I go into, I'm very mindful whether I'm campaigning in Indo-Fijian or indigenous setting, the way that I go in. I'm even sharing that, you are eyes and ears of 24 hours, that people look to you. So I've shared with my group, when you go in, they're doing exactly what I was doing when I was very new, when I was still kind of shy, and especially in a Fijian setting, kind of stay in the background. I said, no, you go forward, shake hands with the people. And for us, for the indigenous, that can be hard when you see all the men folks seated and to go forward and shake their hands. I do that very freely now. Then I couldn't do that, in my first run in 1999. Things like that, tips like that in being able to just go forward and make friends with the men folk. Accepting women, I find, is not a problem anymore. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Faye, when you go out for campaigns, when the NFP goes out to campaign and you're in the community, what sort of strategies would the party use to make sure that the female candidates are actually recognized and remembered? When it comes polling time, the voters will think, oh, I remember that lady from when she came to my community and she spoke to us. How do we achieve that?
For the party, everything that is done, it's done with the gender focus in mind, starting from the leadership. So we've decided right from the writing up of the manifesto, and even as we go out into the communities, we've got flyers, and we're going to be using a lot of social networking. And the advertisement that we have, we make sure that men and women both have equal time. So that's one of the strategies that we use, that it's a conscious effort by all, that we don't just preach it, but we actually walk it. So we ensure that both men and women are visible, both men and women have airtime. And even now, as we go out to campaigns, they give the time for both the male and female candidates. So we already have all the discussions about all our advertisements to be equal with gender.
I asked this question to Mrs. Padarat earlier. How do you get women into politics, and then how do you get them into parliament?
To get women into politics, I think that's been one of the main focus of the National Council of Women, which I've just left. We've been working with the Women's Forum, and I was one of the co-conveners. And one of the things that we were looking at is to educate women that they have a place in society. We have 50% of the population, so why not make up 50% of the decision making? So I think we have, you could say, we've reached a place now where we can see a lot of women that are standing. So we could say we're already there. We're getting women to stand. But the other thing is getting people to vote for women. We need to look back at history. What roles have women played in our political life in Fiji, from the pre-independence to post-independence, pre-coup and post-coup. So we need to be able to see how have women contributed to this, or how have women not contributed. So to me, it's an exciting time for women because it allows the leadership, the wisdom, the tenacity of women over the many years to be revealed in the selection of people. And for us to get more women into parliament, we've got to just let people know that this time around, you are voting in the person. So get to know the women. And already, I think the women are already doing that. They are leaders in their own rights in all the different communities and the different parties that they're representing. Now, what's left is for the voters. I think we need to plead with the voters and help them realize that their vote gets that woman into parliament. And I'm sure, I just had a session with some of my maternal relatives. It's nice. Start off with people that you know, your friends, your networks, and from there you move on. It's no longer about the usual issues that we would rate in parliament, but it's more about the person. So, and I think a lot of women stand a good chance. So it's just a matter of them getting to know your constituents and getting the constituents to respond to them and begin to see them as a credible leader and someone that could, more importantly, articulate their issues in parliament, because that's what it's about. We're representing people in parliament. So they need to start looking at that. And women have been doing that all their lives. The children talk to their mom and their mom talks to the dad. So it's at a national level now.
All right, and with that, we'll take another very quick break. Call FM, Speak Your Mind. We're talking about women in politics, opportunities and challenges that they are facing in the lead up to September 17th and post-elections. In studio, we have Faye Volatambu from the National Federation Party and Lavanya Padarat from the Fiji Labour Party. Mrs. Padarat, let's speak hypothetically now. What are some of the issues or some of the strategies and measures that the FLP will introduce or work towards if it gets into government? Women's strategies we're talking about.
First of all, we are, as we discussed earlier, we're a great supporter in women parliamentarians working across party lines, because we believe our strength lies in that altogether. But in terms of the party in itself, we are always strong on we're always strong on wanting more women into parliament. But then that's one of the challenges we've told you. We don't have enough women come forward in order to have the numbers we ideally wish for. The other thing is we just look at for our party right now. We are very concerned about the health issues, meaning the health care, particularly for women. And I've discussed some of that already. We need to have this high rate also of cancer of the breast and of the uterus. high rate in women, and we are concerned. So we look at having facilities available, accessibility to facilities such as mammogram to be readily available, these kind of things to meet the needs of women in that respect. There are many others along the side of women. We are also mindful that the largest health workers in country are women, the nurses. They comprise the largest workforce in the country. We need to be able to retain them in country by giving them good working conditions. That's what the Labour Party represents, the rights of workers. And we believe, if the conditions improved, that's what we want to do. We might be able to retain them instead of them leaving, looking for greener pastures. There's another big area I think I've mentioned to you about the environment, but for labor right now, we believe it's not only women, but of course women being running the family, managers of families. The high cost of living needs to be addressed urgently, and that's what we will do. We want to be able to do that, the high cost of living, the unemployment, and of course that all this is leading to poverty. And we know that there are more women. We talk about feminization of poverty. There are more women who are suffering under poverty than men.
All right, Faye, what are some of the strategies or policies of the NFP on women's issues? Policies
that we have, I think our manifesto will be released this week. But for us, you would have heard Professor Beeman talking about VAT, and that helps women because we do a lot of shopping. So it helps us in our budgeting, it helps us in our ensuring that we can keep our family at a much lower rate than what is current. It's also a fact that we are going to promote 50% of women in leadership, at all levels of leadership. And the fact that we are actively going out right now and enlisting women that we know that can ensure that this becomes a reality when we go into Parliament. So we are very pleased, as a woman, we're very pleased that there are many women that are standing. But for us at the National Federation Party level, we are very we're very cautious of the fact that the women that we choose have to be women that can come in with their experiences and contribute to the policies. So we've got somebody that can talk about the domestic violence in Fiji, somebody that has issues on education, someone that can talk about the legal issues, as well as women's issues and much broader issues like health and education. So every time there is a discussion in our manifesto or any decision that has to be done in the party, we've all sat together. So it's something that I've seen visibly happening within the party. So it's a matter of practice that you could say policy in practice. We're leaving that at the National Federation Party. So and that has been formalized in the manifesto. But that's something that we're going to see, that we actually ensure that all the things that we're putting in our manifesto implemented in Parliament. And for the lineup of women that we have, I fear for the people in Parliament if they go against women's issues, because I think all the women that are standing in this year's elections, they will articulate that in Parliament. So whether it's the National Federation Party or the other parties, I'm sure all of them have one issue in mind, and that is to ensure that women take their place rightfully in the House of Parliament, that is.
Ladies, when will Fiji have its first elected female Prime Minister?
Well, I think it's up to Fiji. If you were aware of the electoral, the way the votes are going to be counted, it's really on how they vote. Because even though the party has its candidates list, how you vote will then decide who gets to be number one when the votes are counted. So, of course, we have our wish list, but that wish list is dependent on you and the people of Fiji and how they vote. Our dream is that the people of Fiji will cast all their votes and vote for women. And I've said it as a women's advocate, and now again. Women in Fiji have not been part of the House of Parliament in all the upheavals that we've had. So maybe it's time to give women the reign in parliament and let the people of Fiji see what women can do when they are the Prime Minister, the Minister of Finance, Minister of Justice. I mean, if Rwanda can do it, or Liberia can do it, why not Fiji? So, I mean, that's my take, but I don't know whether that's the NFP talking or me as a woman advocate.
Mrs. Padar, when will we have an elected female Prime Minister?
I agree with what Faye has just said, but in addition, you can be looking at the result of the coming election, 2014, for a woman Prime Minister.
Mm-hmm. For young women out there who haven't entered politics, maybe they're not old enough, maybe they're still in school, they're taking a keen interest. What would you tell them right now, Mrs. Padar?
Like every other parent would be saying, just encouraging them to work hard at school. You know, once they work hard, it'll be for them to choose much later on what they want to do in life. But the most important is for them to be successful through school in order to have choices later on when they've done well in school. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking at all levels, right up to university level.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
We need a new direction for people. If all the young women out there and all the young people, use your vote to speak. Vote for a woman in parliament. And for all the parents out there, look at your candidates very carefully and see who do you think deserves that one vote that you're going to make. Make it count. So I guess, as Mrs. Padara said, you could be looking at the future Prime Minister sitting here.
All right. Well, with that, we've come to the end of our show. It's been an exciting 1 hour speaking to the different female candidates, getting their views, finding out what the issues and what the challenges are for women candidates. But at the end of it all, I think I can say one thing. It is exciting times. It will be interesting to see how the votes go and how all these women who've stepped forward and decided to be a part of politics to contest the elections. It'll be exciting to see how things turn out. September 17th is Fiji's big day. With that, this is Speak Your Mind on Gold FM. I'm Edwin Nand.